Marcus Kane stared at his bank account with the same enthusiasm most people reserved for funeral announcements. 300 credits. That was all that stood between him and joining the ranks of deep space drifters who survived on recycled air and questionable protein bars. The salvage business had been brutal lately. Every decent wreck in the outer rim had been picked clean by corporate scavenger fleets, leaving independent operators like him to fight over scraps. His ship, the Rusty Phoenix, lived up to its name in all the wrong ways. The life support wheezed, like an old man climbing stairs, and the navigation system had developed a concerning habit of suggesting routes through black holes. "One last try," he muttered, pulling up the government surplus auction on his cracked tablet. The screen flickered, displaying dozens of lots ranging from decommissioned satellites to mysterious alien artifacts seized by customs. Most were priced well beyond his meager budget. Then he saw it. Lot number 247, unidentified orbital structure, severe damage. Location, Kepler 442 system. The starting bid was 1 credit, one single pathetic credit. Marcus leaned forward, squinting at the grainy images. The structure looked massive, easily the size of a luxury liner, but the photos showed twisted metal, blackened hull plates, and what appeared to be significant battle damage. The description was equally uninspiring. Warning: structure may contain hazardous materials, unknown alien technology, or hostile life forms. Buyer assumes all risks. Hazardous materials, he snorted. At this point, I'll take hazardous materials over bankruptcy. He placed his bid and waited. Minutes ticked by with no competing offers. Who else would be crazy enough to buy a potentially lethal alien wreck floating in the middle of nowhere? The auction timer reached 0. "Congratulations," his tablet chirped. "You have successfully purchased Lot 247 for 1 credit. Marcus stared at the confirmation screen, wondering if he'd finally lost his mind. He'd just spent his last dollar on what was probably a cosmic death trap. But something deep in his gut told him this was different. This was his chance to turn everything around. The journey to Kepler 442 took 6 days, during which Marcus survived on emergency rations that tasted like cardboard, soaked in despair. The Rusty Phoenix groaned and protested with every jump through hyperspace, but somehow held together. When they finally dropped out of warp, Marcus expected to find a gutted hulk drifting dead in space. Instead, his jaw dropped as the most beautiful ship he'd ever seen materialized on his view screen. The vessel was sleek and elegant, with flowing curves that seemed to dance with starlight. Its hull gleamed like polished silver, unmarked by battle damage or decay. Soft blue lights pulsed along its length in hypnotic patterns, and energy fields shimmered around docking bays that looked more like palace entrances than utilitarian. "Ports! This can't be right," Marcus whispered, checking his coordinates twice. This was definitely the location from the auction, but the ship before him looked like it belonged in a museum, not a scrapyard. As his small vessel approached, a docking bay opened with fluid grace. The interior was bathed in warm, golden light that made him think of sunset on Earth. His ship settled onto a landing pad that seemed to adjust itself to accommodate his vessel's awkward dimensions. Marcus grabbed his emergency toolkit and sidearm, though he wasn't sure what good either would do against unknown alien technology. The airlock sealed behind him as he stepped onto the foreign ship. The first thing that hit him was the air. It was perfect. Clean, warm, and carrying the faint scent of exotic flowers. The second thing was the silence. Not the dead quiet of a derelict ship, but the peaceful hush of a place waiting patiently for something to happen. The docking bay was immaculate. The floors looked like they were made of black marble veined with silver, and the walls curved upward in architectural, impossible ways that suggested artificial gravity generators far more advanced than anything humans had developed. "Hello?" Marcus called out, his voice echoing strangely in the vast space. "Anyone home?" A door iris opened across the bay with a soft whisper, revealing a corridor that glowed with the same warm light. Marcus approached cautiously, every instinct screaming that this was too good to be true. Ships like this didn't sell for 1 credit. They didn't sell at all. They were the stuff of dreams and Federation propaganda vids. As he stepped into the corridor, soft music began to play from hidden speakers. It was hauntingly beautiful, like nothing he'd ever heard. The melody seemed to wrap around him, easing the tension in his shoulders and making him feel strangely welcome. The corridor curved gently, leading him deeper into the ship. Along the walls, he glimpsed doorways that opened onto luxurious chambers filled with silk cushions, floating holographic art, and furniture that looked like it had been grown rather than built. Then he saw her. She emerged from a side passage like a vision from a fever dream. She was tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Her hair flowed like liquid starlight, and her eyes were the color of nebulae, deep purple shot through with swirls of silver. She wore a form-fitting outfit that looked like it had been woven from moonbeams, and when she moved, Marcus could swear he heard the whisper of cosmic wind. But it was her smile that stopped his heart. It was radiant, welcoming, and filled with a joy so pure it made his chest ache. "Welcome home," she said, her voice like music made flesh. "We have been waiting for you, Marcus Kane." Marcus blinked hard, wondering if the recycled air on his ship had finally driven him insane. "How do you know my name?" "We know many things about you," she replied, gliding closer with movements that defied gravity. "We know you are brave enough to risk everything on impossible odds. We know you see beauty where others see only profit. And we know you are the one foretold in the ancient prophecies." "Prophecies?" Marcus laughed nervously. "Lady, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm just a salvage operator who made a really stupid purchase." "Are you?" She tilted her head, studying him with those impossible eyes. "Then why did you see a treasure where the galaxy saw only trash? Why did your heart call out to our ship?" "Across the void." Before Marcus could answer, the corridor filled with the soft sound of approaching footsteps. More women appeared, dozens of them, each more beautiful than the last. They came in all shapes and sizes, but all shared that same otherworldly grace, that same luminous skin and starlight hair. Some wore flowing robes, others form-fitting suits that accentuated every curve. All of them were looking at him with expressions of wonder and delight. "Sisters," the first woman announced, her voice carrying clearly through the corridor, "our captain has finally arrived." A collective sigh rose from the group, and Marcus felt his knees go weak. Several of the women pressed closer, their intoxicating scent filling his nostrils. Gentle hands touched his arms, his shoulders, his face, as if they were confirming he was real. "I'm Seraphina," the first woman said, her hand finding his, "and this is your ship, your crew, your destiny. Welcome to the Celestial Desire, the most exclusive pleasure cruiser in the galaxy." Marcus's mind reeled. Pleasure cruiser? These weren't refugees or prisoners or some alien research team. They were, "We exist to bring joy, comfort and ecstasy to those worthy of such gifts," Seraphina continued, her thumb tracing circles on his palm. "For too long, we have drifted without purpose, waiting for the one who would claim us, the one who would become our captain, our protector, our beloved." "This is insane," Marcus breathed, but he made no move to pull away from her touch. "I bought this ship for 1 credit at a government auction. There has to be some mistake." "The only mistake," said another woman, stepping forward with a predatory grace, "would be leaving us unclaimed." She had shorter hair, the color of solar flares, and eyes like liquid amber. "I am Celestine, and I have dreamed of this moment for cycles beyond counting." Marcus looked around at the faces surrounding him, beautiful, hopeful, hungry, part of Him wanted to run back to his ship and pretend this was all a hallucination brought on by bad rations and isolation. But a larger part, the part that had always craved adventure and impossible dreams, whispered that this was exactly what he'd been searching for his entire life. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" he said finally. Serafina's smile could have powered a small star. "Simply be yourself, Marcus Kane. Be the captain this ship needs. Be the man we have waited for. And in return," she leaned closer, her breath warm against his ear, "we will show you pleasures beyond your wildest imagination." The other women murmured their agreement, pressing closer until Marcus was surrounded by warmth, beauty, and possibility. His old life of salvage runs and loneliness seemed like a distant nightmare. Maybe buying this ship hadn't been crazy after all. Maybe it had been the smartest thing he'd ever done. Marcus followed Serafina through corridors that seemed to pulse with life itself. The walls shifted from deep blues to warm golds as they walked, responding to their presence like a living organism. Every surface was smooth and seamless, as if the entire ship had been grown rather than built. "Your quarters," Serafina announced, gesturing to a door that materialized at her touch. "Though I hope you will find reasons to explore beyond them." The captain's suite took Marcus's breath away. The main room was larger than his entire previous ship, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the stars. A massive bed dominated one corner, draped in fabrics that seemed to shift between silver and deep purple. Exotic plants grew from alcoves in the walls, their bioluminescent leaves casting dancing shadows. "This is too much," Marcus said, running his hand through his hair. "I can't possibly deserve all this." "You deserve far more than you know," said a new voice from behind them. Marcus turned to see another woman entering the room. She was shorter than Serafina, with curves that could stop traffic and hair the color of midnight shot through with streaks of electric blue. Her outfit was even more form-fitting than the others, leaving little to the imagination. "This is Vespera," Serafina explained. "She coordinates our entertainment activities." Vespera's smile was pure mischief as she circled Marcus like a predator sizing up prey. "I have so many activities planned for you, Captain. Games, shows, experiences that will awaken senses you didn't know you possessed." Entertainment. Marcus swallowed hard, his imagination running wild. "Among other things," Vespera purred, trailing a finger along his arm. "But first you must be hungry and tired. Let us care for you." As if summoned by her words, more women appeared carrying trays of food that smelled better than anything Marcus had eaten in years. There were fruits that glowed within a light, meats that seemed to melt on the tongue, and drinks that tasted like liquid starlight. "Where did you all come from?" Marcus asked between bites of what might have been the most perfect meal of his life. "How did you end up here?" The women exchanged glances, and he caught a flicker of sadness in their luminous eyes. "We are the last of the Zephyrians," Serafina said softly. "Our world was dying, consumed by a plague that turned our paradise into a wasteland. We were chosen as guardians of our culture, our beauty, our way of life. The Zephyrian way is to bring joy and pleasure to others," added Celestine, who had appeared silently at the edge of the group. Unlike the others, she wore what looked like armor made of the same flowing material, and Marcus could see the subtle bulge of weapons beneath her outfit. "For millennia, our people served as companions, healers, and guides to countless species across the galaxy. But the plague," Vespera's voice grew quiet, "it took everything, our families, our friends, our world itself. We are all that remains." Marcus felt a stab of sympathy for these incredible beings. "I'm sorry, that must have been horrible." "It was," Serafina nodded. "But the ancient prophecies spoke of a champion who would find us when hope seemed lost. A warrior from a young species who would give us purpose again. And you think that's me? Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. I'm nobody special, just a guy who makes bad decisions and worse jokes. You are wrong, said another voice, from the doorway. This woman was different from the others, taller, more muscular, with short-cropped hair and oil stains on her hands. She wore a practical jumpsuit instead of flowing robes, and her eyes held a sharp intelligence. I am Nyx, and I maintain this ship's systems. Do you know what I found in our databases after you boarded? Marcus shook his head. Your ship's transponder codes, your service records, your salvage licenses. You are Marcus Kane, former Earth Defense Force engineer, decorated for valor during the Proxima incident. You single-handedly saved 3 colony ships from a reactor meltdown. That was different, Marcus protested. That was just doing my job. Was it just your job when you risked everything to buy this ship? Nyx stepped closer, her gaze intense. When you could have played it safe and accepted poverty, you saw something others couldn't see. You took a leap of faith. That's what makes you perfect for us, Vespera added, pressing against his side. We need someone brave enough to take risks, someone who sees beauty where others see only problems. And someone, Celestine said quietly, who can protect us from those who would use us for their own ends. Marcus caught the undercurrent of fear in her voice. Someone's after you? The women exchanged looks again, and this time the fear was unmistakable. There are those in the galaxy who would enslave us, Seraphina explained, who would use our gifts for profit rather than joy. We have been hiding, moving from system to system, always one step ahead of those who hunt us. The Corvaxi Syndicate, Celestine spat, slavers and worse. They have been tracking us for years, trying to add us to their collection of exotic pleasure. Slaves. Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. The thought of these beautiful, kind beings being hunted like animals made his blood boil. How long have you been running? Too long, Nyx said. We are tired of hiding, tired of being afraid. We need someone to stand with us, to help us find a place where we can be safe. And in return? Marcus asked, though he was already beginning to suspect the answer. Vespera's hand found his chest, her touch sending electricity through his entire body. In return, we offer you everything we are, our ship, our loyalty, our bodies, our hearts. We will make you the happiest man in the galaxy. The choice is yours, Seraphina said, her voice soft but intense. You can take your salvage ship and leave. We will give you coordinates to valuable wrecks that will make you wealthy beyond your dreams. Or. Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. Or you can stay, become our captain, our protector, our beloved. Let us show you what paradise truly means. As if to emphasize her words, the lights in the room dimmed to a warm, intimate glow. The alien women moved closer, their intoxicating presence surrounding him like a living dream. Marcus could feel their warmth, smell their exotic scents. See the desire burning in their luminous eyes. I need to think, he said, though his body was already betraying his words. This is all happening so fast. Of course, Seraphina smiled, her hand touching his cheek gently. Take all the time you need. But while you decide, let us show you what your life could be like. Vespera clapped her hands, and the room transformed. Music began to play, not from speakers, but from the very air itself. The walls became transparent, revealing a view of space so beautiful it took his breath away. Nebulae swirled in impossible colors, and distant suns painted the cosmos in shades of gold and crimson. This is just the beginning, Vespera whispered in his ear. Tomorrow, I will show you the pleasure gardens, the zero-gravity pools, the chambers of eternal spring. You will experience sensations that your species has never even dreamed of. And I will show you our weapon systems, Celestine added with a warrior's grin. This ship may look like a pleasure palace, but she has teeth when she needs them. Together, we could be unstoppable. The engines alone are worth a fortune, Nix chimed in. Zephyrian quantum drives that can cross the galaxy in days instead of months. With this ship, you could go anywhere, do anything. Marcus looked around at the faces surrounding him. Beautiful, hopeful, desperate. These weren't just alien women offering him physical pleasure. They were offering him a family, a purpose, a chance to be the hero he'd always wanted to be. "One night," he said finally. "Give me one night to think it over." "Granted," Seraphina said, though her smile suggested she already knew what his answer would be. "But you will not spend it alone. Vespera will keep you company, to help you. Relax." The other women began to file out, each one touching him briefly. As they passed, a hand on his shoulder, fingers brushing his arm, lips pressed to his cheek. By the time they were gone, Marcus was dizzy with sensation and possibility. Only Vespera remained, her eyes sparkling with mischief and promise. "So, Captain," she purred, moving closer with fluid grace, "how shall we spend our evening together?" As the stars wheeled overhead and the ship hummed with alien technology around them, Marcus Kane began to realize that his life would never be the same again. The question was, did he have the courage to embrace paradise, or would he run back to the safety of his small, lonely existence? The answer, he suspected, would come sooner than he thought. Marcus awoke to the gentle hum of quantum engines and the soft whisper of recycled air that smelled like morning rain on Earth. For a moment, he forgot where he was, expecting to see the cramped confines of the rusty Phoenix. Instead, he found himself in a bed larger than some apartments, wrapped in sheets that felt like liquid silk. The events of the previous evening came flooding back, and his cheeks burned with the memory. Vespera had been the perfect companion, playful, sensual, but respectful of his boundaries. They had talked for hours about everything and nothing, sharing stories and dreams while she showed him wonders beyond imagination. She had massaged away years of tension from his shoulders, fed him exotic fruits that tasted like pure bliss, and when exhaustion finally claimed him, she had simply held him close until sleep took over. It had been the most intimate evening of his life, and they hadn't even kissed. "Good morning, Captain," came Seraphina's melodious voice from the doorway. She entered carrying a tray of what appeared to be breakfast, though the glowing fruits and steaming beverages looked nothing like any Earth food he knew. "Did you sleep well?" she asked, setting the tray on a floating table that materialized. At her gesture, "Better than I have in years," Marcus admitted, sitting up and noting that someone had provided him with sleeping clothes that fit perfectly. "How did you know my size?" Seraphina's laugh was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "We know many things about you, Marcus Kane. Your measurements, your preferences, your deepest desires." She moved closer, and Marcus caught her intoxicating scent, like starflowers and cosmic storms. Today she wore a flowing gown that seemed to be cut from captured aurora, shifting between green and gold with every movement. "Have you made your decision?" she asked, her luminous eyes searching his face. Marcus took a sip of the warm beverage. It tasted like liquid courage with hints of chocolate and adventure. "I think I have, but first I need to know something. What exactly would being your captain entail, beyond the obvious benefits?" Seraphina settled gracefully onto the edge of the bed, close enough that he could feel the warmth radiating from her skin. "You would command this ship and protect our sisterhood. You would help us find a safe haven where we can practice our arts without fear, and you would be our beloved, sharing in all the pleasures we have to offer." "All of them?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "We are not possessive beings," Seraphina explained, her hand finding his. "Love shared is love multiplied. You would belong to all of us, as we would belong to you. Is that something you could accept?" Before Marcus could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Emergency lights bathed everything in pulsing red, and the gentle hum of the engines shifted to an urgent whine. Celestine's voice crackled over the intercom. "All hands to battle stations. We have Corvaxi vessels approaching fast." Seraphina's face went pale, her earlier confidence replaced by naked fear. "They found us. I don't know how, but they found us." Marcus was already moving, his military training kicking in despite years of civilian life. "Where are my clothes, and how do I get to the bridge?" "Marcus, you don't understand," Seraphina said, catching his arm. "These aren't ordinary pirates. The Corvaxi are ruthless. They take what they want and destroy everything else. You should take your ship and run while you still can." Marcus stopped and looked at her, really looked at her. He saw the fear, yes, but also hope flickering in those incredible eyes. Hope that someone would finally stand with them instead of running away. "Like hell," he said firmly. "Nobody threatens my crew." The words surprised him as much as they seemed to surprise. My crew. When had he made that decision? Seraphina's smile could have powered a small star. "Your clothes are in the wardrobe. The bridge is 12 decks up, but the express lift will take you there in seconds." Marcus dressed quickly in the perfectly fitted uniform that had appeared in his closet, black with silver trim that somehow managed to look both practical and elegant. As he prepared to leave, Seraphina caught his hand. "Marcus," she whispered, then kissed him with a passion that made his knees weak. Her lips were soft as moonlight, warm as starfire, and when she pulled away, he felt like he could conquer the galaxy. "For luck," she breathed against his lips. The bridge was a marvel of alien engineering, with holographic displays showing every detail of the approaching threat. Celestine stood at what appeared to be a weapons console, her earlier ethereal beauty replaced by the hard competence of a warrior. Nyx was at engineering, her hands dancing over controls that responded to her touch like musical instruments. "Report," Marcus said, slipping naturally into command mode. 3 Corvaxi destroyers, closing fast," Celestine replied without looking up. "They're demanding we prepare to be boarded. What are our options?" "We can run," Nyx said. "This ship is faster than anything they have, but they'll just follow us to the next system, and the next. Or we can fight," Celestine added, her voice grim. "But we're outnumbered 3-1. Marcus studied the tactical display, his engineer's mind automatically calculating angles, distances, and probabilities. The Corvaxi ships were ugly, brutish things, all armor and weapons with no thought for elegance or efficiency. "What kind of weapons do we have?" he asked. "Plasma cannon arrays, quantum torpedoes, and some special systems," Celestine replied with a predatory smile. "Special how?" "Let's just say that Zephyrian technology isn't limited to pleasure and comfort," Nyx chimed in. "We have tricks that would make a Defense Force admiral weep with envy." Marcus felt a grin spreading across his face. "Then let's show these bastards what happens when they threaten my family." The word slipped out before he could stop it, but looking around at the faces on the bridge, determined, hopeful, trusting him to protect them, he realized it was true. Somehow, in less than 24 hours, these incredible beings had become his family. "All hands, this is your captain speaking," he said into the ship's communication system. "We're about to show some unwelcome guests why it's a bad idea to threaten the celestial desire. Battle stations, everyone." The response was immediate. Throughout the ship, the Zephyrian women took their positions with practiced efficiency. These weren't helpless refugees, Marcus realized. They were survivors who had been fighting for their freedom longer than he'd been alive. "Incoming transmission," Nyx announced. "Put it through." The main screen filled with the ugliest face Marcus had ever seen. The Corvaxi commander was a mountain of scar tissue and hate, with eyes like chips of black ice and a mouth full of razor teeth. I am Warlord Thackus of the Corvaxi Syndicate, the creature snarled. You will surrender the pleasure slaves immediately, or we will take them from your corpse. Counteroffer, Marcus replied pleasantly. You turn around and limp back to whatever hole you crawled out of, or I turn your ships into very expensive scrap metal. Thackus laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Foolish human. You are outgunned and outnumbered. Surrender now, and I might let you live as a pet. You know what your problem is? Marcus said, still smiling. You think these women need protecting. You're about to learn how wrong you are. Celestine, show him what Zephyrian hospitality looks like. With pleasure, Captain. The celestial desire moved like liquid lightning, dancing between the Corvaxi ships with impossible grace. Plasma bolts lit up space as the enemy vessels opened fire, but their shots passed harmlessly through empty void. The Zephyrian ships seemed to anticipate every move, every attack. Now, Nyx, Marcus called, engaging quantum cascade disruptors. Nyx replied, her fingers flying over her controls. Space around the lead Corvaxi destroyer began to shimmer and twist. The enemy ship's shields flickered and died, as reality itself seemed to bend around it. Marcus watched in amazement as the destroyer's weapons simply stopped working. Impossible, Thackus roared over the comm. Not impossible, Marcus replied. Just expensive. Celestine, light them up. The celestial desire's weapons were works of art as much as instruments of war. Instead of crude energy bolts, they fired streamers of coherent plasma that moved like living things, seeking out weak points in the enemy armor with predatory intelligence. The first destroyer died beautifully, its hull peeling away like flour, petals to reveal the delicate machinery within. The second tried to run, but Nyx's engines were too fast, too advanced. It lasted maybe 30 seconds longer than its companion. Thackus's ship was alone now, damaged and helpless, against technology it couldn't comprehend. This isn't over, human, the warlord snarled. The Syndicate has a long memory and longer reach. We will find you again. I'm counting on it, Marcus replied calmly. Next time, bring more ships. These 3 barely qualified as a warm-up. The transmission cut off as the surviving destroyer limped away into hyperspace, leaving only debris and the satisfaction of a job well done. Damage report, Marcus called. Minor shield fluctuations, nothing more, Nyx replied, clearly impressed. Captain, where did you learn to think like that? Defense Force training, Marcus said, though they never taught us about quantum cascade disruptors. That was all you ladies. You fought for us, Seraphina said softly from behind him. Marcus turned to find her standing at the edge of the bridge, her eyes shining with something that made his heart race. You could have run, but you stayed and fought. Of course I did, Marcus said, moving toward her. This is my ship, and you're my crew. Nobody threatens what's mine. The passion in her kiss this time nearly knocked him off his feet. Around them, the other women began to applaud and cheer, their fear replaced by joy and something deeper, love, gratitude, desire. So, Vespera said with a wicked grin, I believe our captain has made his decision. Marcus looked around at the faces surrounding him, beautiful, powerful, devoted. His old life of salvage runs and loneliness seemed like a half-remembered dream. I guess I have, he said, pulling Seraphina closer. Now, someone want to show me what paradise really looks like. The answering chorus of laughter and promises made him think he was about to find out exactly how good life could be when you stopped running from happiness and started embracing it instead.